Say hi, welcome. There goes my dog. Just starting the video, and sure enough, she's on the way on me. Okay, I gotta do this first before I get into my other videos, and then I gotta go do my wood. I'm down to 21 logs left to cut and split, so if I can get that done this week, I'll be so happy. It'll free me up to do. It's a lot of work. I mean, especially all the other stuff I have to do in a day. It's like try to put 2 hours aside a day just to cut wood is an hour to 2 hours is like, and then doing it between the raindrops and it's getting cold and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah. But hopefully I get that done this week. Plus I got to start packing things away for the winter. I just since I've been hitting the jam nights, I've just basically thought to myself, how about I write down every song I do so I don't end up redoing songs on live, see how many songs I know. Okay, and I remember I've said a couple of times to Greg, the soundman there, guy with the nice Telecaster there, and I told him, he goes, man, he goes, you know, he says, you have such a repertoire of songs, you know, like it's like, I said, yeah, I probably know over 1,000, you know. I mean, I can't remember every song off the top of my head, but I know I've probably played over 1,000 different songs live, maybe more. Who knows? I mean, I've been playing since I was 5, and I've really been taking it serious since I was 10, and I was in bands from like 13 or 15 years old. 1989, I think, was the first time I played live. Canada Day, 1939, on the back of a flatbed truck with my Explorer guitar, my TCM Explorer guitar, which I've now given to my sister. So it's like, that's many moons ago. But just so far, since I started, I guess it was late July, early August. It looked like it was August 16th was the date, the timestamp on my video that when I did the first jam night, which the first jam night was a bit rough, and they're starting to get really smooth now. Again, everything, like, it takes a little while to get back into the groove of it, you know. But anyway, they're not in the order I did them, but although it's 15 minutes or 3 songs, I typically was able to sneak away, except for this week I wasn't able to sneak away with a 4th song, but I was typically putting 4 songs in. So I did, so far, this is just what I've done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. And this morning when I woke up, I was like, oh, I forgot to add this one. So maybe I did more. So maybe I've been at this for 10 weeks now, I'm not too sure. But anyway, I'll read them out for you. So House of the Rising Sun, Classical Gas, Pipeline, Hey Little Girl, that's from the Eddie and the Cruisers movie. Good Rats by Dropkick Murphys. Drive By, Train. Wanted Dead or Alive. Salty Dog, Flogging Molly. Tweeter and the Monkey Man. Hangman, Jailbreak, AC/DC. Two Princes, Take a Picture, Filter. More Than Words, Wholehearted. These are 2 extreme songs. Any Way You Want It, I did that one. Journey, I Remember You, Skid Row. Epic Space, that's kind of my own. Copperhead Road. You Are the Future, that's One Republic. Flying Squirrel, again another instrumental of mine. Green Tin and 60s Mine, and To Be With You. These are Mr. Big songs. Wherever You Will Go, The Calling. Coming of Age, Damn Yankees. Bad Out of Hell, Meatloaf. Reuben's Train, not sure who originally wrote that, but that's there's quite a few versions of it out there. It's more of a hillbilly song. Hiding, Pearl Jam, Spirit of Radio, Rush. And I think that's all the songs I've done up to date. So that's pretty good. And I put a check mark by the ones that got the best responses. So there's a few of them there that's like, okay, well, some of them it's like I've done them so many times live, it's just I don't want to play them anymore. I want to bring in newer stuff. But there's just some stuff that it does so well that when I watch the footage, I can hear the audience singing along on some of them. So it's like, okay, well, when you got an audience sing along, you know that when you're having a whole night yourself, they're going to be 10 times more into it, right? So I just thought it was really cool. that in just a few short weeks, I've played an average of 4 songs on stage. And then there was the violin stuff I did, where I just did 2 violin tunes. I didn't do any songs whatsoever. There was that night. So this week I'll be bringing out my Hornsteiner violin. So far I brought out violins. I mainly use my own guitar. So far I've brought out my Lionhead violin. That was the first violin I've ever played on stage live. That was pretty cool. The mics that were on the stage that night, that was the night there where the 4-man quartet was on. Oh, I forgot to tell you, check out my hat. They had these sound mics. It was 2 little mics. Like, I swear they're only like this, but you know these things are like $500 a piece. You know what I mean? And it just, wow! It's like it picked up the violin so much better than the single mic that I used last week with my 1713 Stradivari, which was the second violin I brought out. It picked it up okay, but it definitely, mind you, the 1713 Stradivari is a lot thinner sounding than my big fat plump, Lionhead violin. That thing belches out quite a bit of volume. The 1713 Stradivari, it's a weird violin where it sounds thin, but yet it cuts through everything. Like you could hear it at the back of the room, the same way you could hear it right in front of you. Like the volume of it doesn't change, but it seems like a more of a softer, sweet tone, silky tone, rather than the dark kind of powerful steam train, Ghost in the Ship kind of sound that I get out of the Lionhead violin. Now the violin I'm going to be playing this week will be the Hornsteiner violin. That's a big fat red one. That one's like, you can almost mistake it for a child's viola. But it's a very specific violin. It's an octave violin. And I'll be explaining that on the stage when I go. I'm going to do a song on that. And then I'm going to grab, the Taylor that was there. That Taylor, I don't know what model it is. I'm going to have to ask Greg what model of Taylor that is. He told me what it was, but I'm going to have to ask him again. But I played it, and it plays, like the action on that is set up well. I remember, because Greg was telling me, he goes, I get on stage, and he goes, everybody wants me to play leads. When the leads come up on that, he goes, that's not a guitar for leads. But I played it, I'm like, how could you be complaining about this thing? Plays beautifully, even with 12 gauge strings on it. I mean, it played better. Now, mind you, my guitar is going to need a setup pretty soon, but I'm not going to do it until I get new strings on it. But it needs to be set up at the heel again. The action's getting a bit high. But the action was like, I was right up to the 12th fret, and it was pretty nice to play. We'll just leave it at that. Very nice guitar, and there's obviously it's got, the fretwork on it is like where on the Ibanez there's no fretwork done on them. It's just enough to make a sound, but it's not perfect. You know what I mean? So that guitar, it sounded really good. It sounded really good. I mean, that guitar is going to have to get replaced at some point. I mean, it doesn't owe me anything. I mean, the Ibanez AEL10 is a great guitar as a gig guitar. My electronics are kind of done on it, and that, so I have to make do with that Dean pickup, which doesn't really allow the guitar to get its full sound out. So it's it does kind of kill the sound of the guitar a little bit. But it gets the job done. Now, there was another guy, I don't know if he had an AEL-10 or a newer version of it, I forget what they call it. The AEL-10 is called something. It's the same guitar, but Ibanez calls it something else. And the guy that played last week, that played right after me, he had a sunburst one there. It was really nice, except for he kept accidentally unplugging himself at the foot switch. It was kind of funny. I don't know how he kept doing it, but it was like, but mind you, there's a lot of cables and stuff all over the front of the stage there, and it's like he was playing all my guitar with it. It's like, oh, you're unplugged again. Stop the song, plug it back in. He did it to himself like twice. Got a good laugh at it anyway, but he was really good. He was really good. But that, again, the same guitar I had, and his, he was running off the internal pickup and stuff like that. And it sounded good. Like, I mean, they're not phenomenal guitars, like they're not the best of quality, but they are a good sounding guitar. They're a very versatile, robust, and reliable guitar, except for when you wear it with electronics. Mind you, mine I bought in 2003, 2004. I don't know how long I've had it. They're good guitars for $400. I don't know what they're going for now, but for $400, I mean, it's paid itself off a couple of times doing gigs over the years with it. So, with the exception of 2 weeks, it's pretty much performed for me. And it even performed normal for a couple of weeks with the internal pickup. Now, mind you, it could be just a dead battery going in there, but the batteries don't fit in there properly. So there is some quality control issues with it, but at $400, it's nothing that you wouldn't expect at $400. But that said, for $400, it was one of the best guitars. Ibanez make good guitars. It's just what you pay for is what it's made out of. So the cheap guitars are made almost identical to their really top-end guitars in a lot of ways, except for the top end a little more refined. But it's the materials that make the difference. So the cheaper guitars, they use cheaper materials just to keep the cost down. But they still use the same 3-piece or 5-piece neck. I mean, that thing isn't going to warp on you ever. You know what I mean? Like they're solid guitars. They're really well made. It's just, over the years of beating them up, mine's held up pretty good. But yeah, it is going to be needing replacing. But that's the songs I got. That's what I've done. I'll keep adding to the list just to see. But I mean, that's pretty much almost a full show right there. Now, mind you, if I was playing a full show, I wouldn't just play these songs. Doing 3 songs, I would never play that many ballads in one night. Unless it was a place where you could pull it off. Sometimes you could pull off, if you got the audience, you made your money, or you're going to make your money anyway, then yeah, you can do a very mellow night if you want, but I don't like to do that many ballads, even though they're fun to do. I like to do no more than 3 ballads in a night, if I can help it. I tend to like to bring the night more rowdy, as just kind of more the way I go. Power ballads, okay, some of you can get away with it, but the goal for me is never to just make songs, bring a night down. And this is what gets a lot of people on a jam night, is they think they can only play ballads. Take them up, take them down, keep them on the level, whatever you want to do. But the thing what I've been trying to do with the jam nights is, well, right now, because I'm going to be doing something really cool with the electric violin, hopefully in about a week or 2. Because if I can incorporate that into, work that into the show, incorporate it into the show, when I do get a full gig, I still haven't got a date set. Probably going to have to keep at that. But again, if you talk to somebody like, yeah, we're going to set up a date and whatever, and nothing happens after a couple of weeks, move on to somewhere else, because chances are you're probably not going to, you'll be at them forever. It'll be like 2 years before you get a gig there. So I definitely want a full gig fairly soon. I thought I would be full gigging by now, but I mean, these things take time. These things take time. The biggest holdback I have is my finances, because I need to go to the city. The first place I want to hit is Baseline Station. Then from there, I want to see if I can get into the Heart and Crown, the McGinty's, because those places they pay really good. And some of those places they got live acts all week. So, or sometimes say Wednesday night on. Maybe on a Wednesday night you make $300 a night, but on a Friday you might make $1,800. Maybe they don't pay as good now. It was pretty good years ago. It's hard to say. Some places you play for the door. Barrymore's used to be an awesome place to play. Now it's more of a dance club, which is too bad, because that place was really awesome to play. Whatever. But I'm going to see if I can get that gig still, set up a date. I know they were full for at least 2 months. So, November, December. December would probably be the earliest they could slip me in, but they might get me in. Again, I was talking to the owner, one of the owners. There's a husband and wife that own it. Strangely enough, she used to work at Barrymore's too. Maybe that's where I've probably seen her before. But anyway, she was saying, she goes, yeah, we're pretty booked up, but they got my number, they got that stuff. And if they call and they say, hey, Reg, such and such canceled on us, can you fill in? I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? Regardless of what's going on, drop everything and run. The big thing, funny enough, there's a guy the next town over in Otter Lake named Reggie as well, and he's a musician as well. He's just a couple of years older than me. And one thing he said, like he's a taxi cab driver that lives up here. Strangely enough, he makes enough money doing that. But he still plays like every other week or whatever. And one of the things he said, whatever your commitments are, keep them. If you're going to be playing for $40 or for free or whatever, if you say you're going to do it, do it. Because that stuff gets around, Oh, that guy, oh yeah, he always cancels out, always, whatever. No, so if you're going to commit to something, do it. Just, get it done, you know what I mean? Because also too, right now I'm using the Jam Night to kind of build a bit of a portfolio on my Facebook. So it's a Reggie G musician, whatever, on my Facebook as a Facebook page. And the goal with that is quite simple. Is just to, I've been playing here, and here's some of the photos. And as I play other places, it's just to show that you're active in it. And then once you play a couple of shows, then you can start linking the your shows to the to the thing. But show your best stuff on that. You know what I mean? Like like some of the songs, I was like, okay, well, I could just bombard them with a whole bunch of songs I did. That's one thing. But I'd rather bombard them with the best songs I did. So even if you have fewer songs on your Facebook page or your website or whatever, showcase your best. To me, I like showcasing live tunes, not stuff that here I am in my room. Here's the 15th take and it's perfect. No, I want you to see. Okay, this is what the guy can do live. One take wonder. Something like Billy Sheehan. I was listening to him and Paul Gilbert talk about that. When there's certain songs that they do when they do it live, particularly like songs like "Addicted to That Rush" and stuff like that. They're like, it's like if one little thing is out, the whole song falls apart. And it's like it shows you like when you watch these guys, they make it look easy, but they're like it's not easy. You got to work to do that. You got to be really on top of the ball. And stuff like that. Now, mind you, when you played the same songs for 20 years, 30 years in a row, and it's, you played it in 1,000 different places, yeah, you're going to get good at it. But you can get rusty at it. And, like they warm up, they jam, they run through it all the time. And that's what they said, it's like that they you got to keep the cobwebs off. You got to keep from rusting. They didn't say exactly like that, but that's what he was implying. It's like that when you don't, if they haven't toured in a while or whatever, they get back together and it's like, okay, yeah, then we got to practice a couple of times and then go out. You know what I mean? Nail the show so you don't even think about it. You just, you're on autopilot when you're doing it, but you still have to have the skill level to be precise at it. Now this week when I played. And I'll just wrap up around this. I know I always say that, but I've got other videos I got to get to too. This week when I played, one of the things that I noticed was maybe also too playing a guitar that sounded a little better. Everything, like mind you, I was playing really simple songs. There was no razzle dazzle, especially on somebody else's guitar, like a Taylor guitar. That's I don't know what they start off at, 1,500 or whatever. I don't think there is such thing as a cheap Taylor guitar, right? I don't think they make a lower end guitar. Maybe they do. But anyway, so I'm not going to be thrashing on it the way I thrash on my Ibanez. Why? Because it's not mine, right? And although I felt like I could, it's like, oh wow, this thing actually plays better than I thought. Well, it's not that I expected it not to play well. It's just I didn't know what it, a lot of people will buy an expensive acoustic guitar and think, okay, it's ready to go. When, okay, no, you need the action set up on it, where a lot of times the action is a lot higher than it needs to be on acoustics because they don't know what strings you're going to... Gibson does this, Taylor does this, Martin does this, Fender does this, Washburn does this, everybody does this with their acoustics. Even Ovation, whatever, where it's like you buy it and okay, from the first fret to the fifth fret is no problem to play, but after that the action starts getting really high, and then you get down to the nut. It might be okay, but what they don't know is okay, they got 10s on there. Maybe you're going to put on 12s. If you put on 12s, the action is going to be really high. Maybe they got 11s on there or whatever. Maybe you're going to go to a lighter gauge and then the action will be too low. So they just kind of put it somewhere in the center and say, okay, well this is where you'll start there just enough to play it, so when you're in the music store you can play it and see how you like it. And then Okay, well, then you take it to your luthier. I mean, they're assuming if you're spending $1,500 on a guitar or $3,000 on a guitar, the first thing you're going to do is, okay, I'm going to take this guitar. Here's what I want. You hand it to the music store or luthier and say, okay, I want the action down here. And they do that for you, or they set it up and say, okay, well, come back in a week or whatever, and the guitar will be ready for you to go, whatever. Yeah, that's what they're assuming. And this guitar was really well set up. But then again, my setup and your setup, some people might play that guitar and say, well, that action is way too low. It's too low for me. Whatever. For me, it's I play an acoustic. I want to be able to play my acoustic guitar almost as well as I play my electric guitar. And with that Ibanez, when I have my action, it's just getting a little bit high now that my finger tapping I can't get away with. But I've always said this about guitars. Whether you're playing 9 gauge, 10 gauge, 11 gauge, 12 gauge strings, 13 gauge strings, anything like that, it doesn't matter. The gauge shouldn't matter. The amount of tension you should use to press down 9 gauge strings should be the same for 13s. If your hand hurts when you're trying to chord, then you need a setup on that guitar. If your hands are hurting when you're playing, you're going to get tendinitis. Or carpal tunnel. You're going to get carpal tunnel. If you don't want carpal tunnel, okay, set your guitar up. It's not this, I like my action high because it builds finger strength. That is a bullshit excuse for somebody who doesn't want to set up their guitar right. There is no reason to have high action. Sometimes you like it a little higher because you want to dig in a bit, but we're talking like not even a millimeter higher than, you don't need that. If your guitar action is that high off the fretboard, I don't know if you guys can see that, but if it's like that off the fretboard, you're going to end up with tendinitis. And if you like playing guitar, then don't do that. Oh yeah, but my guitar's cheap. Doesn't matter. I had, my 12 string was $180. It was Oscar Schmidt 12 string. Okay. And that thing is the only thing that the heavy gauge strings should make difficult is string bending. But like the actual pressure to play them, negligible. And I was able to play that right up to the 21st fret or 19th fret or whatever. I can't remember how many frets it had on it. The same way I could do that ending solo to Hotel California, no problem on it. You know what I mean? On a 12 string, There's a lot of tensions on 12 strings, but I mean, if you can get a 12 string to play like that, there's no reason why you shouldn't set up a guitar. Just something that you should consider, you know what I mean? And if you don't know how to do it yourself, it's not hard to do. It's just, if you don't know how to do it, it's a little bit of trial and error. Like with my Ibanez, I got 2 bridges with it. So, I mean, it's just the fact that they send you the second bridge is nice. So by the time you file down the first bridge, and every acoustic, I don't care how much you paid for them, it could be a Gibson J200, $10,000 Gibson J200. Over time, the neck is going to bow forward. All guitars do this. Acoustic, electric, whatever. With acoustics, it's you got a solid neck on there, but what happens is the heel joint, over time, it just warps because the body is pretty solid, but it's not like an electric guitar where it's, think of it more like the body's anchored to the neck rather than the neck anchored to the body like on an electric, right? Where on electric, okay, you got the support from the body, the neck isn't going to go anywhere, right? Where on acoustic, it's like the body is attached to the neck, and the neck is the solid thing, not the body as much. Although the heel joint's built up well enough, you don't have to worry about it. But over time, it will bow forward, and that's why you do your truss rod adjustments over time. But at some point, you're going to get a neck that's going to start to bow, and then you take down your bridge. I usually take down the bridge before I ever do a truss rod adjustment. Sometimes, the way I do it, and again, this is just the style I use, is I use a slide ruler, something long, and I see that every fret is like there's no bow in the neck whatsoever. If there's no bow in the neck whatsoever, okay, I leave it there, and I'll just take down the bridge. Why? The bridge is cheap, the neck's expensive, right? So I don't care. That way, I don't have strings that are like, I want strings that are parallel the whole way along the neck, so that the fret height at the first fret is the same as it is at the heel. It's just the same, and you could play it without buzzing the whole way. Once you start getting a neck that's kind of like this, then when you take down the bridge, you get a bit of a gully somewhere in the middle where it's still easy enough to play, but then you get like your neck is kind of like, here's your strings and you got a neck that's doing this, right? Thus is what was the Taylor, where it was actually the action was lower at the heel than it was, say, around the 7th fret, but it was the same as it was at the 1st fret. So it was, the split difference was okay. So that guitar probably was going to need a truss rod adjustment a little bit to flatten it out, but maybe if you did a truss rod adjustment at that point, the bridge might have been too low and you'd be buzzing frets somewhere on the neck. So it's always that balance, but if you can keep the neck as level and flat as possible, or not necessarily level, but from fret to fret as level as possible, and without bowing the neck at all, then it's easier to keep the action down. The nut and the sometimes you got to take down the nut too. If you take down the nut and then take down the bridge and everything's good, you just leave it at that. Now the thing about the nut and the bridge is if you take off too much, you can't put it back on. So it's nice to have a spare nut and bridge saddle ready to go in case you screw up. But usually you grab it, you do 1, 2, 3, you try it, and then you tune it up. It's a slow process, but it doesn't take much to take down the action for playability. So anyway, I just thought I'd give that little tip there. But that's the songs I've done. I will keep adding to the list, and as I add to the list, I'll try not to duplicate these songs, because then it's a great, again, that's what these jam nights are for, is figuring out, well, what are you going to throw in your show? Like, I mean, I put check marks, like I say, when I got crowd sing-alongs. If I do a double check, it was a crowd sing-along and a dance-along. If you get the crowd to sing and dance. Now, mind you, a sing-along is a good indication that if you were to play and sing, and if they were singing along, chances are if I had the whole night to myself and warm them up to these songs, they'd be dancing as well. But if you get a crowd sing along and dance along, now mind you, if you go with the really old songs that everybody knows to death, yes, that's probably going to happen anyway. But when you want to try new songs, sometimes new songs will go better than you thought, like the Filter Take a Picture song. That one's always done well for me. I had a sing-along on that one. I did the first time I ever did it, but Any Way You Want It, I had a sing-along on that one, on the chorus part anyway. No dancing. I was amazed, but I was the first act up after Intergalactic Space Hippie there. And I Remember You. Had I played probably the 4th or the 5th of the night, it's just Greg, I guess he assumed I was going to go up at early anyway, so he put me on in the 2nd place after Intergalactic Space Hippie. I don't like performing after that guy because he usually clears the bar. But that early in the night, it's like, okay, well, nobody's going anywhere, right? So, and he's getting better. He's getting better. That's the thing. Like his shock value is wearing off. I'll just say that. But he's a nice guy. He's well, you watch the videos. Trust me, it's amusing. It's amusing, but it can get a little bit long in the tooth, right? So he kind of, he chases the audience away on you, and you will get that sometimes at a jam night where the guy just before he clears the room, and it's like, you know what I mean? Where if you had, but this week past, the room didn't clear, which I guess because it was cooler out, so people didn't go outside or whatever. They just sat through it, and it was steak night, so people were eating, and it looked like it was really good steak too. So what ends up happening is that if you get somebody ahead of you that doesn't clear the room, one good thing about Intergalactic Space Hippie having him just before me is he makes me look really good. You know what I mean? Plus, he's using the electric guitar, so it allows me to go a little bit louder. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, yeah, I can pull the hyper stuff off a lot easier. The violin stuff, I think people enjoyed the violin story there last week. It's too bad my printer died on me. My ink died on me. But thus was the cursed violin. The story would have been a bit better, but I think I pulled it off okay. And then it wasn't a plugged-in instrument, so it's kind of like background noise more than right out there in your face. Like the first week, different mics on the stage. So I know even with this, as loud as the Hornsteiner violin is, I know it's going to make more volume. Even my brother, like I got him to stand out at the woodshed one day, and I played each violin, and with his head facing the other way, told me, tell me what you think about this one. So I played like the little, the little 3/4 one. He goes, oh, that one has a really soft sound to it. And I played the 1713 Strat. He goes, that one's really weird. He says it's like very faint, but it just passes right, the sound just passes right by you. It's like it's right beside you, even though it's that far away. It's a real cut through instrument. It would be good in a big hall because it'd be so clear sounding, right? Thus is the Stradivari design, right? And then when I played the Hornstein, it was, whoa, wow, that one's loud. So he said that, he goes, the last two were really loud, and that was the Lionhead violin and the Hornsteiner. And he says the last two were the loudest, the first two were the softest. And then of course I played the, before it pulled apart, the Prokop violin, and he was like, yeah, that one, he says, that one sounds brilliant, and of course the violin's sitting there in two pieces again, the neck pulled off. But hopefully I'll get that fixed up in the next couple of weeks. So this week coming, I'm going to play the Hornsteiner violin. I got a little piece that I worked out for that. I'll probably use their acoustic. I don't know what songs I'm going to do. I'm going to practice a couple of songs today. I'll practice 6 songs, and I might only be able to pull off 2, depending on the host. Last week there, the host wasn't going to let me get away with 3 songs and the violin thing, so I was like, oh, okay, well, no problem. But I always try to push it, because usually Greg lets me do 4 songs, because they're all short within the 15 minutes anyway. But it's 3 songs or 15 minutes, right? So you got to stick to the rules a bit, and there was a lot of people out there. Was like 9 people wanted to go up, so I wasn't going to push it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's 3 songs. But I'll always try, what I mean? I'll always try, Again, you get up there and you want to stay up there, right? Again, if I had the whole night to myself, after about 4 or 5 songs, the entire crowd is going to be settled in to the the way the night's going to go, and then they're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to make sure they have a lot of fun. Audience interaction is also a big part of it. That girl Lana there, she's like, you got a good stage presence. So does she. Like, I definitely want to do a duet with her. Mind you, she's a pretty girl too. She's not hard on the eyes, that's for sure. But really good voice, really good power. Her voice very animated on stage, so she's got good stage presence. Like I say, oh yeah, I got a couple of songs. Yeah, I heard I should do this song. I'll ask her about it, see what she says. But it's one of those things when you're not going to see the person you only see the person on jam nights. Are you going to be able to pull it off, right? So here, we'll try this song, and it might work, it might not. But when you never jammed with somebody before, that's the thing. But yeah, so anyway, that's what I got. I'm going to leave it at that. It was a lot of fun. I could go on forever, but I'm just going to keep adding to the list, like I say, and put check marks along the songs that do the best. And I hope you guys are enjoying the Professional Canadian Beaver Walker channel. Please go subscribe there. It's a lot of fun. It gets your mind off all the serious stuff for sure that's going on in the world. Make sure you subscribe, okay? I'll probably put this on the Professional Canadian Beaver Walker channel, so you're probably already here anyway. But anyway, subscribe, share, comment, like, be true to yourselves, be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day.